Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to share how I organize my planner and prep for the week as an engineer slash project manager at a consulting firm. And when I say planner, I mean a physical planner, like I write things down. I know a lot of people have completely transferred over to the electronic world where they use their calendar as their planner. However, I am not one of those people. I wish I was. But I need to write things down to be able to digest it and just fully, understand what I'm going to be doing for the week. I think anyone who works in the corporate world would agree with me when I say that one of the most important things to learn is how to manage your time and not let your inbox and your calendar control your schedule. And so as much as we want to balance flexibility to be able to take on what we call in my office a fire drill, you also want to have control over your time. The way that I do this is by proactively managing my calendar and the critical tasks that need to get done that week so that the calendar doesn't manage me. So I am an engineer. I work in the transportation infrastructure industry. However, my projects are so diverse that I would say the skills that I've acquired for time management can be applicable to anybody in any field. Let's get started. Let me show you how I plan out my week. I think the first thing that I need to make clear is that my planner is not how I strategize a successful delivery for a project. That's all done as its own separate thing that I do specifically for projects, making sure that I set a schedule, a budget, a strategic plan on how you're going to deliver a project. Anything that goes into the successful delivery of a project and the strategy on how that's going to be delivered is its own separate beast. This is more on the day-to-day, how do I use my planner to successfully get through a week. So, like I've said, I know my meetings, I know my tasks, I know delivery or submittal dates for the week. So depending on the type of week that I'm going to have, I have two methodologies on how I use my planner. The first one is if I have one of those weeks where I have client meetings, I have to prep for exhibits or external meetings, I have a submittal on a Friday or several submittals throughout the week, things that I really need to make sure get hit and out the door into the client's hands or into external hands, whatever is needed for that week. The second methodology I use when I have a much more relaxed week where I perhaps don't have deliverables and not as critical meetings, and I can take it on a day-by-day basis. I'll go over both of those. I'll go more in detail the first way because the second way it just really is the first way, but on a day-to-day basis. So it's Monday morning, you've got your fresh cup of coffee, you just got to your desk and you're ready to go for the week. Actually, one of my favorite things to do is to prep for the week Friday night. I know that sounds super nerdy and it sounds like, the goody two-shoes kind of advice, but that is genuinely what I do. I work half days on Friday, so by noon I'm done with meetings, I'm done with emails, I'm done with everything, and I spend the last hour or two of my evening at work prepping for the next Monday. That means that I list out all my projects and I list out the tasks that were not completed this week that needed to be completed and additional tasks that got added that need to get done the next week. So I'm big on work-life balance, mental health. I would call myself a recovering workaholic. So I really want to keep work at work. And this is one of the best ways to do it, to just do a brain dump Friday night, write down everything that didn't get done, write down everything that still needs to get done. One other thing I also do is do final emails to everyone, letting them know that, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm going to get to it next week. And that is basically the last page on my notebook for me to look at on a Monday morning. So Monday morning, I'm looking at that list from Friday, and I know what tasks need to get done and what didn't get completed last week. Therefore, I know that I need to integrate those for this week. So that's my first step. Step number two is looking at my calendar and paying attention to all the meetings that I have that week. And I categorize them. I have three categories: critical meetings, active meetings, and inactive meetings. Critical meetings are client meetings or external coordination meetings, 99% of the time, it is a much more professional setting where I need to be in my PC professional mode and be on my A game. Second one are active meetings. And those are meetings where, there's internal coordination meetings or, I don't know, specific discipline meetings where I need to become prepared because there's a situation, there's a conflict, and I need to come with answers or have looked at something prior to this, or I need to come with an update for the project manager, or perhaps I'm the project manager on that project and I need to come prepared to lead the meeting. The third type of meeting is an inactive meeting, and this could be, a staff meeting, a corporate meeting, something where I'm more participating in the sense of I'm listening in, and I probably won't have a speaking moment, and I can probably multitask during this meeting. I also like to make sure that I know which meetings I'm leading and which ones I'm just an active part of. The ones that I'm leading obviously need a little bit more attention because I have to come prepared with an agenda. So once I know what kind of meetings I have, I put them in my planner. And I also allocate prep times for those meetings that I consider critical or active meetings if they need it. One of my biggest tips is to make sure that anything that is big that you need to come prepared for got done way in advance of that meeting, because that day I essentially only want to spend half an hour or an hour of prep meeting time. I don't know if this is just me, but I get very anxious when I have meetings like this where I have to present something. And so throughout the day, especially if I have it in the afternoon, I get very distracted and I can't concentrate on everything else. Obviously, this is a lot less as you gain experience. And so one of the tools that I've implemented to help me get over this anxiety is be super prepared beforehand, but on the day, 30 minutes, 1 hour, we'll go over your notes, talking points. And this way you kind of done your best to be prepared. You put it away and you concentrate on other stuff. I know I've had times where I've had meeting after meeting after meeting, and all of a sudden that critical meeting pops up, and all I can do is really just flip from one phone call to the other phone call, and that's it. So that's just a tip. I could probably do a million of those. Maybe that'll be its own video. All right, so once prep time is in my planner, the next thing I do is I schedule my time through blocking. I know this is very trendy, and I've seen a bunch of videos on, blocking and schedule blocking or whatever. But I just straight up just think in hours, and that's how I block out my time, in hours. If I have a task that is obviously going to take a lot longer than an hour, I, break it down into hour segments. So let me give you an example. Let's say I have an estimate, right? I have a master estimate that I need to complete. What are the tasks that we need to do? What are the meetings? What are the coordination items that I need to do in order to get this estimate done, right? So I know that I have to get the quantity of a bid item, several bid items. I know that I need to find the unit prices for these bid items. I know that I need to get this QC'd by the senior estimator, and I know that it needs to have an escalation price depending on when the project's going to be constructed. So I need to go do some research on that. And I know that it has to be in a specific format because of, client standards. Those are all little mini tasks that can take 1 hour each, Obviously, it depends on whether it's a huge project or a smaller project. So you really got to pay attention to that. But most of the time, you can definitely break out tasks in hour blocks. All of these, I make sure that I prioritize again. I think prioritizing it's a skill on its own. Understanding what needs to get prioritized and what needs to be placed at a more important level than others. So for me, as an engineer, I make sure that client requests are number one, contractor requests are number one. Those two are number one. Deliverable tasks are number two. Making sure that any tasks that make you the bottleneck and people are waiting on you are number three, so on and so forth. So the second way that I plan out my week is exactly like the first, except that I can go on a day-by-day basis. All right, so I am gonna show you how I do this on my planner, I guess. I think one of the most satisfying things about the way that I plan out my week is being able to check off each one of these as I go along, and just at the end of the week seeing everything done or crossed out. Honestly, I do. Sometimes I cross out items that didn't get done and need to get moved to the next week. But it just feels so satisfying, know exactly what got done that week, what needs to get done next week, knowing that you were actually productive and what you were productive on. Before I adopted the system, there were weeks where I just would look at my calendar on Friday night and think, what did I do this week? And it was just because I was really letting my calendar and my inbox control me versus me controlling my time. So I'm going to do a little step-by-step with my calendar and my planner. I'm just choosing one of a random week and I'm going to fill it out using, titles of projects like project A, B, C, obviously not real data, but just more of an example of what I do. Here in the calendar, you can see that I have my full schedule of the meetings that I have for the week, and each of these starts with the name of the project, so either project A, B, C, D, E, and so on, and what type of meeting that is, as well as I've added whether it's an internal, a client meeting, or a contractor meeting, whatever it is, I've added that information already, so it is pretty clear on what type of meetings I have for the week. I kind of emulated a week in my life as an engineer from my Outlook calendar. So the first thing that I do is I lay out a hour by hour plan. So if I'm going to start at 7, I start at 7. And if I'm going to start at 8, I start at 8, depending on the day. And I do it by hour blocks. Skipping over my lunch. Monday through Wednesday, I usually work more than 8 hours. So I add those hours in here. Then I add check boxes on each side to check off each time I've completed a task or a meeting. Doesn't have to be perfect, or at least I don't mind if it's not perfect. Just has to be neat and legible. Sometimes it's not even neat. First, I add my project meetings. So I add the project name. I know that this one is an internal check-in, so I don't have to include any prep time for that. This day, I'm actually going on the field for a different project. I'm going to be there about 2 hours, so I'm going to have a final meeting very late in the day. And there we go. There are all my meetings that I'm going to have for the day. I only have to prep for the discipline coordination meeting, so I'm going to add some prep time up here. This is not going to be an hour, it'll probably be half an hour. I'm also going to include email, review, day prep time up here. And then once I have all of that laid out, I know how many hours I have left in the day to be able to complete any other tasks that I need to do for the week. So like I said, I have a list of things from previous weeks and then things that obviously come up during action items during meetings. And those are what I'm going to fill out these blocks of times with. This really helps me understand how much time I have left available after meetings and field visits and anything that isn't me just sitting down and grinding on a deliverable or a certain task. Once I figure out how much time I have available, I can really manage how I'm going to use the rest of my time by prioritizing what tasks I need to do first. So this is what kind of a week looks like. You can see that I move things around depending on, how the day transpires, and maybe some things didn't get done during that day, so I have to move it down to the end of the day or maybe to the next day. I cross things out as they get canceled or maybe they didn't get completed. I move things around in terms of priority. Maybe an RFI came out that needs to get done as soon as possible. So I move those things around. So you can kind of see how I get my day-to-day going. Again, this is not my strategic plan on projects. This is more of a day-to-day planning session so that I can kind of keep myself organized and make sure that I complete any tasks. So one more thing that I really want to touch on is the whole balancing, being flexible, and still having control of your time. I think this is one of the most difficult things, being able to say, hey, I understand that you want that this week. However, as I understand that it's not due until next week, I cannot prioritize it over these other things that are due this week. So you will get it on Tuesday, on Monday, etc. Honestly, the biggest thing there is communication. Don't just disappear. Don't just, say, yes, I'll get it done, and then not get it done until next week and they don't know where you're at. Communication is the biggest key. And then there's flexibility. Hey, that contractor needs that answer today, because if there's no answer today, laborers are on hold and time budget is spent inadequately. So that's where you go, I gotta bring this in, I gotta be flexible. And something else needs to be either rescheduled or delegated so that someone else can complete that task and you can review it and both tasks get completed. Again, I think that is a separate video from this one. However, I do have planned a bunch of different videos on corporate soft skills, project management. I do really want to cater to, anyone who's a first generation immigrant that is now trying to navigate this crazy capitalist corporate society that we live in and how to do it successfully. Because that's what I'm trying to do. Just being able to hold on to my roots and my culture while also being able to be successful. So I know that maybe not all of these tips are applicable to everyone, but I really hope that I can share something new or something different that maybe you can use to be more successful in your own time management. That's what I want to do, and I hope you stick around for the next video.